All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program, Johnny Cuba. European roots with that Caribbean soul. Pick up a refreshing German lager in a can. You can pick up a six-pack of Johnny Cuba. Go to johnnycuba.us. You could use the Johnny locator. They'll tell you exactly where you can find Johnny Cuba nearest to you. Make sure you always drink responsibly. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Joining us now is our pal, the great Randy Moller, Florida Panthers color analyst. I don't know anyone who cares more about the Florida Panthers than Randy Moller. Randy, always love having you on. Think about this. So I was on the broadcast with you for 2 years, 2009, 2010. So many years. The team was just the pits. And can you imagine going back then, and now, granted, it's 15 years later, but back-to-back appearances in the Stanley Cup Finals. Do you ever just stop and say, I can't believe this is happening?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Zaz. I agree with you. It's been a long road. It's been a long road, and there's been a lot more lows and highs and that. But you really saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Once the Viola family and Doug Sifu purchased the team, there was a couple lean years there to start with. They started and burnt it right to the ground and built it back up. And everything that they have said that they wanted to do or were going to do, they've done. And they've done it and not only built a team on the ice, but the involvement in the community and all the investments that they've made in the building a brand new practice facility now, part of the War Memorial Auditorium project downtown Fort Lauderdale, the commitment to Broward County and then, it really took off on the ice once Bill Zito was hired, and some of those first moves that he made really elevated the talent level and the chemistry and the culture of this team. And they've built on that and continue to build on it. And now, back-to-back years going to the Stanley Cup Finals. But this is a much different situation, environment, whatever you want to call it, this year than last year. Last year was a Cinderella story. Right. Last year they were beat up. All the injuries that came out after the finals about the Panthers, they were just limping down the stretch run. This year's a lot different. There's the expectations. The players talked about it in training camp, that anything less than getting back to the finals will be a colossal failure. Well, they're back here and they're healthy. They have the experience. They've added to this lineup as well with some good veterans, Kyle Opozo and Vladdy Tarasenko. They built this team, continue to build this team after last year when they kind of got pushed around with the physicality of the Vegas Golden Knights. They went out and got players like Nico Mikkola, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, up the middle, Stenlund and Lawrence. They got bigger. They got tougher. And, of course, that style that the Panthers play, they fit right in. So this is a different team that's going into the finals than what we saw last year.
Randy, how about just this murderer's row that the Panthers have had to go through to get to this point? No one's going to claim that the Panthers had an easy road. You look at the goalies we're talking Andrei Vasilevsky and Jeremy Swayman, who was incredible leading up to game 2 against the Panthers. And then Igor Shesterkin, who looks like the best goalie in the National Hockey League. This is some type of murderer's row the team had to go through.
Well, I totally agree with you. And that just forced the Panthers into even more adjustments and to prepare and to execute to play those low-scoring games. Because those goalies that you mentioned, they're not, for the most part, they're not going to give up 4, 5, 6 goals a game. So you've got to adapt your game to play those low-scoring, low chances, grind it out. Hopefully your special teams are on the positive side, and that's how you win in the playoffs. And the Panthers can, as you know, can play any style you want. We can play in the front yard. We can play out in the back alley. It doesn't matter to them. But these have been low-scoring games, And I expect that probably in the finals as well, because both teams now are at the top of their game in their penalty kill. I think the Edmonton Oilers have killed off 14 in a row power plays, and even longer than that.
I think it's double that, Randy.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So the Panthers, I don't think they can expect. They will try, but I don't think they're going to expect to score 2 power play goals a game in this series. So you round it all up, and I believe that it will be still a low-scoring series. But the star power is just off the wall. You got Connor McDavid for the Edmonton Oilers, is the best player in the world, undisputed best player in the world. Everybody knows it, and what he does and what he can do on an individual base. And then they're pretty solid in their top 6, especially the top 5, and Leon Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins and Hyman can really score goals, especially on the power play. But I think there's certain elements of this series where the Panthers are going to have the advantage on paper. And that's we got to say that on paper, because it means nothing once they hit the ice. They have to execute and perform up to their capabilities and that. But the Panthers, there's a few areas where they have the advantage, and hopefully they can use that to their advantage and that edge to become Stanley Cup champions.
Randy, were you ever concerned in the series against the Rangers? You know, they're down 2-1. It's back-to-back overtime wins. And I was literally saying to myself, I think we're fine. We're down 2-1. I think I'd rather be down 2-1 and dominating the series, dictating the play. We're playing on our terms than ahead 2-1 and, winning the way the Rangers did. I would even make the case, Randy, the Rangers' best games were the last 3 games of this series, which the Panthers won, as opposed to the first 3 where the Panthers really dominated.
Yeah, isn't that something? I agree, Zaz. And I think Paul Maurice said after game 4, it could have been a sweep for the Rangers. It could have been a sweep for the Panthers. I mean, that's how close those games are. And that's what makes it so exciting, because it can be just one play, one mistake on the ice, one misplayed puck, and it could cost you not only a game, but it could cost you the series as well. But you're right. I was of the same mindset after game number 3, and the Panthers are trailing 2-1, and I'm like, no. We're not getting outplayed here. We're okay. We're okay. If we continue to play our game, which we all know Panthers, it's a physical style. It's a forechecking. It's causing turnovers and that. And I expect the same thing in this series. That's the Panthers are going to have to play to their strengths, and that's the Panther style that we've seen for the last 2 years.
Randy, can you describe what the building has been like, especially, clinching it? I was there to clinch against Tampa game 5 in the first round, but it didn't look like I'm watching, these games at home now. It didn't really look like it compared to the building in game 6 against the Rangers. Can you describe what it's been like?
Oh, it's been just electric, and the energy in the building. But it was a little different, though, Zaz. And I know that there's some fans that, but it's a reality. There's a lot of people that live down here or have relatives down here from the Northeast and the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area that are longtime Ranger fans. We understand they got a history, and that there was a lot of Ranger fans in the building, and a lot of those. I saw a number of people that I'm looking at them going, wait a second. In the regular season, you were wearing a Barkov jersey. Now you're wearing a Tkachuk or Zibanejad jersey now. And, I cheer for both. And that it makes it for good fun. The difference in this series, though, yes, there's going to be a handful or more of Edmonton Oiler fans that are going to travel down the long ways to come down to game 1 and game 2. But it is going to be 99% Panther fans. Yeah. And I think it's just going to add more to the atmosphere. It has been so loud in that building. And the Panthers have done a phenomenal job of their fan experience and getting into the parking lots and getting into the building and making sure that fan experience is as positive as it can be. and the Panthers. I'm so happy for these Panther fans. Zaz, you remember, you've been coming to games and that, oh boy, seeing the looks on their faces and season ticket holder rallies and the things that we had to do back in those days. And now to see the expressions on these fans, longtime season ticket holder faces, they're just in dreamland right now. This is, and to go the second year in a row to go this far and have a chance of climbing that ultimate mountain or whatever, and bring a Stanley Cup to South Florida again, besides Tampa Bay, to bring it to the state of Florida. They are just elated, and I just love relishing in that. I'm so happy for them. It's almost like you're happy for your son, Zaz, at a birthday or getting an award at school or whatever. You're just beaming. You're grinning ear to ear, and that's the same way I feel. I know most of these fans down here, the longtime season ticket holders, and I'm just happy for them.
So at the end of the game 6 and the team is getting together and they're bringing out the Prince of Wales trophy, I was paying close attention because I remember last year, and I know, and hockey it's a wacky, superstitious sport, and Sasha Barkov picks up the Prince of Wales trophy, and I was like, that's interesting. I know you're not really supposed to do that. And so I was looking closely this year. Is he going to touch it again? And how great is the clip of Paul Maurice pulling Barkov over as he's about to skate off the bench, and he's pointing at him, and Barkov is shaking his head no in agreement. And we see that he was telling him, don't pick up the trophy. What did you make of all that? I loved it.
Well, I there's a couple things I want to say about that. Number one is the Edmonton Oilers have won 5 Stanley Cups. Now, the last one that they won was in 1990.
Yeah.
Each time that they won the Western Conference or whatever, they touched that trophy and won it, and won the Stanley Cup. Okay. But since then, there's been some kind of a mystique about it. Don't touch it and teams that do touch it, they don't end up winning the Stanley Cup. Last year was a much different situation because what they went through in the regular season and barely making the playoffs and then coming from behind 3-1 against arguably a much more powerful Boston Bruins team, and then going all the way through, and the way that they won it, it was a different thing. It was a different thing. And I didn't question that Barkov touched that trophy last year, but I totally understand that he didn't touch it this year. So that might be a good fortune. I'm not the most suspicious guy or superstitious guy, Zaz. I have my routines. I'm sure you do too. I did it as a player. I didn't call them superstitions. I just called them routines and that. But it's going to be interesting, and it makes it for good fodder and people in the media and the fans talking about it. But
Gretzky talked about it after the game.
It didn't work last year, so let's not touch it this year.
Did you see Gretzky talking about it afterward on the NHL on TNT show? Like, Gretzky was adamant that I picked it up every time. Like, so somebody has to lose. It's a great trophy. Gretzky was like, they were pushing back on him, and Gretzky was adamant that it's a very honorable trophy. There's nothing wrong with picking it up.
Well, I think there's a lot of what am I trying to say? Things that go on in the NHL, routines and things that go on. It's the same thing with at the end of the series handshake. I hated it when I played. I didn't want to shake their hands, but it was a tradition. It's a tradition, and you go through it, and because you respect the game. I think this is the same thing as well. There's no disrespect to that trophy. It's a wonderful accomplishment, but I think it's a little team bonding that they don't touch it, and they're saying to the world, our job is unfinished right now. It's unfinished, and the one that we want to get our hands on. That's the same thing, Zaz, with the Stanley Cup. I've never touched the Stanley Cup. I've been around it, but until we, the Panthers win the Stanley Cup, that's when I will touch the cup. And I've had many opportunities to touch it. I won't touch it. Won't touch it until I win it and being a part of the team.
What do you think the ratings are going to look like? Because it's going to be a monster in Canada, but the United States doesn't use the same rating system as like they have their own ratings. So we're not going to get the Canadian numbers. So I feel like, you know, people are going to say, oh, there's not a lot of interest in this final, when if you were to count what it's going to look like in Canada, I think it probably does a monster number.
Well, yeah. I mean, 3/4 of Canada will be TVs will be turned on to the games. I think there's going to be. I believe there's going to be a lot of interest. Maybe not as much interest as if you had two established original 6 teams or whatever. But then again, remember, we have the best player in the world in Connor McDavid that is playing, and he is transcending all over the NHL and every TV market, especially in the NHL. There will be more than enough interest in this finals. I can guarantee you that.
Will all of Canada be rooting for Edmonton, or does like Calgary fans like, no, we don't like the Oilers? Will all of Canada root for Edmonton?
That's tough to say. It's tough to say. They're hockey fans up there, so they're going to be watching regardless whether they're a fan or not. But they have a strong following, and I keep repeating it all across Canada, because the Edmonton Oilers, just like when Gretzky won those Stanley Cups and Messier in Edmonton, because they had the 2 best players in the world, and so there is interest there. I don't know if there's going to be everybody in Canada is going to be having an Edmonton Oiler jersey on, but I just love the fact that for the first time in a while, that you've got a Canadian team that's involved. The game is originally from there. There's been a long drought of a Canadian team having a chance to win the Stanley Cup. I think it goes back to Edmonton when they lost to Carolina. Montreal came close as well. And that. So it's nice to see. I'm originally from Canada. My roots are there. So I like the excitement that's generating in the country of Canada.
It's all so exciting. It's a little bit surreal, but it's, oh my God. I feel like, Randy, I'm so excited. I watch all the games with my kids who were so nervous the whole game. And it feels to me like it's the Panthers' time, Randy. It feels like it's their time.
Well, if they're able to, they've proven it by playing a very strong Tampa Bay team with Kucherov and Stamkos and Point and those superstars, and Vasilevsky, as you mentioned. They got by them. They got by Boston with all their star power and Pasternak and that. They were able to shut them down. They completely smothered Zibanejad and Panarin with the Rangers. Trocheck had a couple of goals. Kreider had a big goal as well. But for the most part, they really were able to smother them defensively. They're going to have to do the same thing against the Edmonton Oilers. They're highly dynamic. The Edmonton Oilers, they have a history of getting down early in the games, but they come roaring back. The positive and the thing, you look at all these stats and all these different analytics, and that the Panthers have proven in this playoffs that their best period is the third period. And I think their conditioning and their experience that they have will bode them well, especially in the third period. They don't get rattled. They don't get nervous. They just go out and play their game. And as the game progresses, seems like they play even more as a cohesive unit, especially on the defensive side. They're going to need that against the Oilers.
Randy, excellent job. I would tell you to plug. I don't think there needs to be any plugging of anything. The tickets are off the charts. Everyone, the building's going to be packed every single game beginning Saturday night. How are you going to watch the game where do you watch from on Saturday night?
I'm in the building. I'll be up in the press box for a bit. I've got to do a hit on a couple of local TV sports shows in the pregame. Last game I did a couple of suite visits for the team, but I'm just Zaz. I'm just a fan. You know, it's unfortunate that Bally Sports Florida we're not broadcasting. You know, you don't broadcast after the first round, but I'm just a fan, and I sit up there. I try and not root as you're not supposed to be rooting when you're in the press box and that. But I just enjoy it. I'm just enjoying the ride, and these things don't happen very often. And the chance to win the hardest, most difficult trophy in all of sports is something that can be very, very gratifying and life altering. And I'm so blessed and humbled to be a part of it. I just hope that we can get it done this year, because we don't know. You never know when you're going to be back.
Randy, excellent job. Always love having you on. And hopefully the next time we have you on here, maybe it could be in a couple of weeks and it's a celebration appearance. I don't know. We'll see. Randy, great job. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Zaz, always a pleasure. Love having me on your show. It's just it's a pleasure of mine. You've been a supporter of this team for a long, long time, and we'll talk again, my friend.
Thanks, Randy.